Hi everyone, it's Jared with Day Traders FX. Lovely to be with you this afternoon. Just a quick little peek at the euro dollar. I think that this is an interesting one because it gives us a decent look into the dollar side of things, and the euro has some very interesting setups across several euro pairs. So I'm just going to kind of focus on the euro dollar for just a moment here and look at some of what is going on. You can see a few important details here. Number one, we have a weekly channel. Look at this weekly channel. This goes all the way back to January of 2015, which you can see if I get my guy out of the way. There we go. So that's January 2015 right there. That is a good length of a channel. Now, it definitely bottomed out back here and has run up very steadily into these highs. Now, here's what I'm curious about. We have this nice, fantastic trend line. You can see it on the daily chart really well. That's a great trend line since those lows going back into 104.100, 103.50. It's been kind of sticking with this trend line. We're making a nice little bit of a rising wedge and a rising channel. We've got multiple missed pivots down below that are always good targets to aim for. And I think we're going to get down there. Here's what I think could potentially happen between now and then. Let me go back to this chart for just a moment. Actually, I'm going to go back to the daily chart. Here was the election high. That was the election high back in November of last year. And we hit that, came off it, spiked up to it again, came off it a pretty good bit. 11300 all the way down to 11130, came off it by 170 pips. And then we just pounded through that level. I bet this turns into a pretty good little support zone for at least one last stab at getting into these highs, up into 114.75. We had this high right here around 114.40, 50. But we've got all these levels back here that have kind of popped up higher. You can definitely see that around 114.75 to 11500 is kind of that majority of the movement high with a few little spikes here. We have two little spikes that have happened. But that's kind of the nice general area that probably needs to get tested one more time. So here is what I'm suggesting. Here is 11300 right here. And we've got a pretty nice little short-term channel, and I'm not going to be too surprised to see this thing hop around, maybe test that 11300 again, and break and run up for one last stab at 114.50-ish area. So the good thing about this is we can have some pretty tight stops. Right now we're 40 pips off of 11300. If this dips down one more time, we get even closer, and if this can consolidate a little bit, which I think we have a good chance of, and hops around, we can get a nice clean trend line break, jump in on this thing with tight stops just below 11300 and trade this up hopefully into the 11400, 114.50 area. Now, if that doesn't hold and this starts to break, excuse me, I always like to look for two scenarios, and I think scenario B would be a bit of consolidation and a break below 11300. So actually, we have kind of a lot of opportunities here, a lot of things that we can trade. We can do this as scenario number one, which is consolidation, buy a break with stops below 11300, targeting 114.50. That's number one. Number two, if this just consolidates and decides to do nothing but go completely sideways here, and we see this kind of business and that kind of business, and then that puts us into contact with this big, large trend line, and we see a breakout here. That's the move that ultimately I'm looking for, which takes us down towards all these missed pivots down here that we're really trying to get. So consolidation at 11300, taking us into into kind of a breakout area here, could be pretty great. If this consolidated for several days and kind of made its way through that trend line and we saw a break, I would be very interested in that. But 11300 seems like a pretty important, pretty interesting level that we need to keep an eye on here. And so that's the other thing to look for. Option number three would be if this runs up and gives us that trade that we talked about on that 1 hour chart, where it just breaks this little channel, consolidates there, breaks that channel, heads higher. Then from that high, I would be pretty interested in shorting euro dollar against 114.75, 11500. So if this runs up here and kind of hits that spot and we can start looking for trend line confirmations for anything that we can, for double tops, for anything that will give us an opportunity to sell this and trade it back down. So I'm liking that. I'm looking for that. And I think there's 3 good opportunities. Buy the break, trade it up for 100 pips with stops below 11300. Look for consolidation at 11300. Sell the break of 11300, targeting these lows all the way down to 11050. Or this breaks out, it runs up, we trade it a couple of bucks, make a couple of bucks on the run up, and then we are able to sell this and short this from these highs up here and trade it back down. So euro dollar has some pretty interesting possibilities, but one thing is for sure is that we have got a pretty massive channel that we don't want to ignore, and opportunities to trade off that channel high, especially as we're in summertime, is very, very appealing to me. So we've got 3 good scenarios to work with there. Hopefully that's helpful. Best of luck, and let's all make some money on this euro dollar and on everything else we're trading. Thanks everyone, good luck, and we'll see you soon.